Brilliant. Right, let's get cracking, shall we? So, I'm going to talk through this slide. So, today's webinar is scheduled to last 1 hour, including a question and answer session at the end. So, if you've got any questions, just use the Q&A function. I'll explain that in a second. We have closed captions today, so we have the wonderful Maria doing the closed captioning. So, if you do need to use that, press the CC button at the bottom of the screen. We also have British Sign Language interpretation. So we have Claire and Naomi throughout today, and they will be switching between each other throughout the session to give you what you need there. This session is being recorded, so don't feel like you've got to take all the notes and everything. You can look back at this and watch it again in the future and share with all your colleagues as well. We'll have it on the website within 7 days, as well as a lot of other resources as well. So lots of different things that you might need. So a lot of you have done it already, but please say hello in the chat. If you select everyone from the drop down, if there's an option, then everybody can see it, and so just us as the hosts and panelists. If you do find all the notifications quite distracting, on most of your devices, if you look at where the options are for the little pop-ups of where the chat and things are coming up, there's a little upward arrow. If you just click that, you can toggle off the notifications, which means you won't be flooded by all these messages all the time, and you can focus on all the wonderful content that we're going to go through today. So we're using the Q&A function if you have any questions, so please put things in there, and the person managing that and the chat today is the wonderful Jack. So Jack's going to come on screen now and introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name's Jack Roscoe. I'm Tech Champion for Audience Data Collection and Evaluation at the Digital Culture Network. I'm a white man in my early 30s. I've got brown hair and glasses, and I'm wearing a stripy pastel coloured t-shirt. So I'll see you later for the question and answers.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jack. Yeah, so he'll be coming. He does have stunning audio quality. He has a fantastic microphone. Okay, so I'm James. I'm one of the other tech champions in the team. So my specialist area is data analytics and insight, which is a lot of the topics today. So I'm a white man with brown hair and wearing a light pink t-shirt today. And yeah, we're looking forward to talking to you about this content today. So what we're going to go through, I'm going to explain in a second, but do remember that we're here for you. There's a big team of us doing all different things, and it's free. So if you want one-to-one support from us, please do get in touch. If you're in England, working for creative and cultural sector in England, you can have free one-to-one support, and it's unlimited and it's free. So please get in touch with us. Anything that we talk about today, we can go deeper into all these topics, and we can support you on your journeys, whatever that may be, and help you develop your skills as well. Okay, so before we get started, Nicholas says, Jack has the voice of a radio DJ presenter. He absolutely does. So yeah, I think he needs to do more podcasts and things like that himself. It'd be really good, really funny. Before we start, I just want to thank you all for being here today. I know we've just come out of the Easter break and things like that, so there's a lot of stuff that other priorities that you've got going on, but being here today shows your commitment to learning and developing your skills and making your organization better, and that's really, really important, and we appreciate you being here, and it's really nice to see you all. So hopefully at the end of this hour you'll have a few things to take away, and as I said, we're here to support you in all the other things that you might want to do as well, not just this area, but all the things you see on that list as well. Okay, so let's get cracking. So today's session, it's all about data as a topic, because it can mean a lot of things for a lot of people. So the things that we're going to talk about today is three main areas. We can't talk about everything because it is a massive topic, but I'm going to do my best to give you some key takeaways that you might want to think about with the way that you use data in your organization or your practice or whatever you're doing artistically. So the three things that we're going to talk about today, firstly, is around the types of data that exist. So that can be internal and external. Then we're going to go on to integrations, about how you can bring data together to tell a better story. And then we're going to touch on some elements of reporting as well. So what would be useful for you to actually pull your data out and share across your different teams or your funders or different people that you're working with in that way. It's a very broad topic that we're talking about today, and it covers a lot of areas, but hopefully it'll give you some inspiration to have a think about all the stuff that you might be doing. What I've got today is a little helper, as well as Jack and our sign language interpreters and captioners. I've also got this little horse that's going to pop along, and it's going to show the progress as we go through the webinar today, just so you know where we're up to. Because it's going to be 45 minutes of talking, and then we're going to get our Q&A as well. But you'll know where we are. Our lovely little horsey here. So our first interactive element of today is a question for you. And if you'd like to put in the chat the answer to this one, what is data? So in your eyes, have a think about that. What does it mean to you? How would you define it? So Laura says qualitative information. Yeah. Lisa says information. Yeah. Rachel, information. Knowledge from Shona. The best character in Star Trek, says Jack. Yeah. Facts, info, stuff. Yeah. Insight. Yeah. Brilliant. Quantification of information. Brilliant. An aid to making good decisions. Yeah, it can feed into that as well. Evidence. Yeah. Knowledge and understanding. Brilliant. So that's good. Let's go. So the kind of dictionary definition is this. So it's facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. So it can be many, many different things, and you pull them all together into place and then use them for something. I think we're in a position now, especially in our sector, where we're collecting a lot of data, and it's whether we're actually doing anything with it. There's a lot of information that we're collecting that goes into different things, and it just sits there. And are we actually using it? And hopefully we can talk about some of the ways that you can potentially use that data today in ways that are going to help you achieve your objectives and your targets, and improve the relationships you might have with your audience as well. So you might have noticed that my little helper that we've got on the little strip there is a horse. So does anybody like horses? Just give me a thumbs up in the old love hearts. Yeah, a couple of horses. Yeah, a few. Yeah, yes, there we go. People like horses. Oh, that's really nice. So you might have gleaned from the webinar title. Oh no, Damien's allergic to horsehair. Well, it's a digital horse that we're going to be going through today, so don't worry, Damien. You're not going to be. You're not going to get allergic. No sniffling from you. Okay, so this is the webinar for you then, you horse lovers, because all we're going to be doing is showing you lots and lots of pictures of horses, and hopefully by the end of it, it will help fix some of those ideas that you might have. So the reason I've got this picture for a start is thinking about the different types of data. So we mentioned there it's about collecting data for analysis and using it for statistics and things that you might want to use it for. You have it in different places. So firstly, you have lots of data and different systems. You might have internal systems like your customer relationship management platform or your e-commerce system for your shop sales, or things like ticketing. You might be collecting data in that way. You might be doing a lot of surveying of your audiences as well. So that's all data that you might be collecting. And you might have things like website analytics. So lots of numbers and figures that go into that about people interacting with you online. So those are all kind of internal data. So stuff that you own, it's about you. There is also external data as well. So things like demographic data, such as things like Mosaic from Experience. That's all about demographic data about the population, about their demographics, about their age and interests, things like that. That exists externally. You might be working with a partner organization that has a lot of data that you share with them, and you can tap into the stuff that they have. And I'm going to show you Google Trends in a minute. So looking at what people are looking for and the data that you can interrogate around that. But there are loads of things in our sector and lots of support organizations that can help you through that as well. So there's things like the Arts Marketing Association, there's the Audience Agency, Baker Richards, Indigo. All those organizations are creating reports based on our sector, and it's really useful data that you might want to use to inform the activity that you're doing as well. So I'm talking to you a lot about all these things. There's a lot of horses in this webinar today. But what I've done is popped these little key takeaway scorecards. So in the resources, you'll get a PDF version of this presentation, and this will have all this information in. So don't feel like you've got to scribble everything down. We're just going to keep these little pop-up takeaways throughout the presentation for you to read afterwards. So hopefully that's helpful for you. So I mentioned Google Trends there, and Google Trends is free. It's just online. You can look at anything on Google Trends, and it's about what people are searching for across the world. And you can be specific for England if you wanted to. What are they searching for on Google search? So what is the interest over time? Now, looking at this graph, does anybody know what this is? What we're looking at here? So it's people searching for things online. COVID said Abigail, yeah, interesting, yeah. Searching for horses, Catherine gets it, yeah. So what this is this is people just searching for horses over time. So every single year, it's quite static about people's interest. So it's nice to see that the interest in horses is quite linear in that way. A certain time of year, there's a spike of interest in horses. Does anybody know what this spike is? Grand National. There we go. Well done. Straight in there. So we have our own thoughts on the Grand National, but there is a spike in interest at that time of year. So we can use this kind of data to inform how we might, as an organisation, react to certain times of year. So there's certain things that happen, like this is regular every time. So if you had a shop, for example, and you had things which are related to horse racing or horses in general, at different times of year, you could profile those things. So you can use the data that exists externally to inform what you're doing internally. I've got another one here as well. So this is a search term that was quite regular, and then there was a big spike last year. It's not a horse, but I will give you a clue that it's another four-legged animal. Any guesses what this is? Dogs? Crufts? Tiger? Hey up. So I think someone's got it here. There we go. Emily. She smashed it. It's reindeer. So what we've got is in the run-up, so it starts in November. There's an interest in reindeers, and then it just drops off a cliff after December the 25th. Nobody cares about reindeers anymore. But last year, there was a massive spike of reindeer interest. Anybody know what that is? Any guesses? Baby reindeer. Cat got it. Yeah, so there was a Netflix drama series called Baby Reindeer. So although reindeer terms are quite linear, we see it the same trend every year. Actually, when you throw a different thing in there, which is not actually to do with the normal reindeers that we'll see, it's a big spike of interest in the things. So again, yes, we can use data to predict trends, but then sometimes out of the blue, things come out that we weren't expecting. But we can use data to see what that was and to interrogate that. So Lucy said that's about the same time our Christmas walkabouts start getting bookings. There you go. Perfect. So there you can tap into that. Okay, so hopefully, does everybody know what this film is? Scarred Childhood. Yeah, yeah. Trigger warning. Sorry, everybody. I know you weren't expecting this. On your first day back. I'm sorry. So yes, this is a film called Neverending Story. This is Artax and Atreyu trying to pull Artax out of the bog. Yes, things don't end well for Artax. But the reason I've chosen this is that it's to signify the bog of data. So yes, there is so much data that we're collecting. It's in all these different systems, and here's you just trying to yank that, that data out of it, and you're trying to get the insights out of the bog of data. So it's very, very difficult. And one of the I speak to people every single day about all the data that they have and how they're trying to get the data out of it that's actually useful. Because yes, we're collecting so much, but what is it telling us? Is it useful? Is it helping us understand the journey people are going on is? Do we need to collect it anymore? Things like that. So what we've got in the rest of the webinar is just some examples about how you might start to structure some of that data for you to be able to get this. Because the insights bit is the hardest bit. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of effort, and a lot of dedication to get to that stage. But there are different ways of doing it. There are shortcuts as well. So yes, hopefully you won't be too scarred for the rest of the day when you think about this, but it's a great film. Next question for you. What are metrics? So we've got data, which is the collection of stuff that we're going to use for analysis. What are metrics? Measurements, says Ellie. Yeah, the way you measure it, Lisa. Yeah. Way to compare one thing to another. Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Well done, everybody. Smashed it. So it's processed and structured data. So we've got our bog of data, loads of data. But if you process it and structure it, we can then use it to measure performance, measure trends, or key indicators as well. So you might have key indicators, so key performance indicators, so KPIs as they're shortened to in your organization already. That's what we're using metrics for. So it's the numbers and the count of data to actually show that we were on track for something. And you need them, and you need to be active when you're collecting them and looking at them regularly to show that you're on track for where you want to be. But in your organization, I know I asked this as part of the sign-up process, but I'd like to, if you just put a couple of things. Oh, little horsey just moved along a little bit there. But thinking about your organization or your practice and what you do individually, what is your priority data? So what is most important to you? Has anybody got any suggestions or things they want to share? Impact, yeah. About our visitors, Sarah. Yeah, visitor trends, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of audience engagement numbers that we're seeing in here, yeah. Yeah, postcode data, great. Yeah, I've got some trends data there, that's really cool. Joanna says shares, yeah. Yeah, nice. Thank you for sharing those, great. So we're all quite different. There's a lot of different things in there. So there's geographic reach, there's audiences, there's people like individual shares on the content they're putting out as well. So if we think about the priority data that you might have, and you have one specific part of important part of data, why is that so important to you? What does it fit into? You might have in your organization, everyone might know what that is, the priority part of data, or the systems you're using to collect that. You'll probably know who is responsible for it as well. So there's one person or a team of people are responsible for the management and collection of that data. But the thing with using one and only one chunk of data, I know it's quite a broad thing to talk about, but if you're putting all your eggs in one basket and you're using a specific piece of data or metric and it's only one, there are risks around that. Because if you're putting it all into one place, like an overburdened donkey or mule, I don't know. Does anybody know what that is? Is it donkey or mule? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, mule. Mule inclusion says happy. What happens if things go wrong? It's something to think about, and you might want to spread the risk and have more more bits of data or more systems that you're using. So if, for example, a billionaire megalomaniac takes over a platform that your audience is on, and you don't want to be there anymore, there are risks with those kind of things. So are there other ways that you could potentially spread the risk? Yeah, just hypothetical, Jack. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Yeah. So think about that. Where are you collecting data? Where are you putting your effort? Are there ways that you can spread that risk? And it's thinking about the other bits of data and how the relationship that they have with each other. Catherine says that will never happen. So I love this picture, by the way. It's really nice. I just came across it when I was researching horse pictures. But thinking back to our racehorses are all about one thing, one winner trying to get there first, regardless of everybody else. So all the effort is in one thing. And this is what can happen with some types of data you might collect and the importance of it above all else. Now, there's risks around that, as I said, like if something happens to that horse, where do you go from there? And it's thinking about spreading the risk, but also how the relationship of data against each other. And that's where things like integrations or mapping out the journey that people go on with you is so important. I'm going to look at that in a second. The other thing is that, another classic picture, this one, if we're looking at data on its own, without the context around it, it can be very isolating and it won't tell the full picture of what's going on. And like with all of it can't just be used in isolation. You can't just have one bit of data and that's the thing, because there's a journey that you take people on, and everything should be working together to get to where you want to be with this kind of stuff. So there are multiple bits of data to tell the full story. So this is a carriage. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called. Stagecoach and opposition in sight. So it's about London to Liverpool. These two stagecoaches competing against each other, and I've just put this in just to show that if you've got multiple bits of data, they should be all pulling in the same direction. So and working together as a team. So you can't just have one bit of data out of context to everything else. You have to understand what is going on for you as your organization, all the information that you know, and all the depth of context that you have as staff members with the organization is so important. It's not just going to be this single thing and maybe a digital piece of data. It's just sat in a system. It doesn't do anything. You don't know what you're trying to achieve in the journey that you're trying to take people on. And in this picture, we have multiple bits of data. Yes, some are more important than others, but they're all harnessed together in a way that should be pulling you and your organization and your staff members, hopefully, in the right way. And in the background, you can see it. There's another little carriage there hiding there, flying around. You can be beating your competitors because you've got it sorted. That's the idea of that and that one. So it's really important to think about where are you going. And here, out of shot, is beautiful Cinderella about to get in her carriage. But if that's the objective of where you're trying to get to, the rider that we've got on here, so your staff members, all your data is actually pointing in the wrong direction. So where you're trying to get to is over here, and the route that you're going in with everything is in the wrong direction. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources, and that's why it's so important to think about for you and your organization and your practice. Why do you exist? So why are you here? And what is your vision statement? I hope you've all got one. I do bang on about it quite a lot, about having this purpose of why your organization exists. And everything that you do, especially with data and things that you're collecting, should be feeding into that objective. And there's a nice example I'll show you in a minute around that. But it's thinking about, to get people to where you want them to be, does everybody know what that is? And is the data that you're collecting supporting everybody in that journey as well? Because you could be collecting things that don't feed into this. It's going in the wrong direction. Yes, it's good data in theory, but it's not actually linking into what you want to know. Okay. So this is where we think about the journey that we're taking people on. So a horse has moved on. So another classic picture. Does anybody know? Yeah, I was going to ask if anybody knows what it is, but I've written it in the bottom right corner. So this is the Bayeux Tapestry. And this is, I've got this in to think about like the targets that you have. So you might have objectives that you're trying to reach. And this is why I've got lots of arrows and spears throwing around. So quite a violent scene, but thinking about what are you trying to aim for of where you're going. And linking back to what I was saying about the context of information that you're collecting, you could have a lot of snapshots about different bits of data that you're collecting, and they're sat in isolation and there's no connection and you don't understand the journey that you're going on. And it's only when you pull these things together, so if these images represented different data sets that you had, yes, you could see that people are signing up to your newsletter, for example, and the data's going somewhere. And then this last one is someone buying a ticket for you. But you don't know how someone's gone from there to there. And it's only by pulling different bits of data together can you tell that story, which is why we have this lovely visualization of when they did this photography. It was actually to understand how a horse ran way back when. In 1878, they were doing this. Amazing. So I want to show you this. So Ollie, who is our strategy tech champion. So if you need to think about what your vision statement is or your objectives, please do book in with Ollie. He's here for you. You can have a really good chat about this kind of stuff. But what's great about this is that he worked with Aaron, who works at Bath Philharmonia, to create a funnel. And Aaron's done all this work himself. He's built this in Canva. But it's to understand the journey that the audience goes on with Bath Philharmonia and what metrics and actions would feed into that. So I'm going to zoom in on a couple of these points so we can see. So if we look here, then the first step of the funnel, so this is thinking about the journey you want people to go on with you, is building awareness of who you are and how you and what you do. And then as we move down the funnel, we want to increase engagement with the stuff that you're doing and putting out. Have some conversions to do a thing. And in here we've got different attendance numbers that Aaron wanted to achieve. Then moving out of the funnel into a repeat booker, becoming a highly engaged advocate, and then a loyal fan. So if we're thinking about a funnel, you could plot. We're going to put a link to this in the chat. Oh yeah, Jack's done it for us. It's a great example of using this. And what we can do is plot different things against it. So thinking about the journey. So engaging first-time people. Moving down, then get them to visit the website, get them to buy a ticket, and then I like this one, blow their mind with how amazing our concert is. Really good. So this is to think about the journey that hypothetically people will go on with you, and you can test this as a hypothesis. Then we're going to do how. So what are you doing digitally or offline to make that happen? So these are different actions. They're just some of them. They're not everything. And we think what we're looking at here is like social media adverts to build awareness. And then we've got things like email about upcoming events to produce conversions. So there's different actions here set by Aaron about how he wants to do it. And this is where the data and the metrics come in. So each of these funnel steps is data's going into different systems. It's not just into one system, it's going to multiple different ones. And it's how you can review that and put a process in place to map it against something like this about the journey that we're taking people on. So this is where the measures come in. So the metrics that we mentioned earlier on. So thinking about the number of impressions that we're getting for the social media post. So we're thinking about, we want to build awareness. So how many eyes are on the content we're putting out? And the type of content that you put out at this stage about creating awareness is very, very different to the kind of content you're putting out at this stage. We see quite a lot, people focus on conversion a lot. about sell, 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 buy a ticket, or come to our events, things like that. But in actual fact, you need to do more further up the funnel. You need to build awareness of what you do first, and that can be softer messaging and different types of content that you have. So as I say, this is all about eyes on content, unique web views. So this stuff is from the platforms themselves, or like the website analytics. So two different bits of data, different setups there. And then as we move down the funnel, so we've got email signups. So if you were using something like Digital or MailChimp, you could be tracking the numbers of signups at that stage. And then we've got into these different Bathfill Harmonia for free page views. So specific pages around coming to see it for free. And as we go through here, different objectives. And then lastly, what we can have is different targets for each of these as well. So I pop these in. So what Aaron has done is said, I want to reach a goal of 50,000. I'm not quite sure if that's impressions or whether website views. It was probably website views. And then we have grow subscribers by 5%, and then different tickets and stuff like that. And then like 10% repeat customers return. So really tangible ones for Aaron to work towards and share across the team. And it is a really small team. This is not built by somebody who's got a massive team doing all this stuff. Aaron's just cracking on with this. He's built this in Canva, and just it's something that they can share across the organization to see where they're on track and have a nice tangible target, and be able to, when they're talking to other people, they can show them the journey that they're taking people on and what different systems that they might need at different stages to be able to track this information. So I'd love to see you have a go at something like this, but do get in touch with us if you want support mapping something like this out for yourselves. Okay. So the next stage I want to talk about is where technology can help with this. So yes, what we've seen at the moment is a lot of talk around artificial intelligence, and it can be really scary when you talk about using, putting your own data into that. But we have to, if you're considerate and thoughtful about what you're doing, you can lock things off. If you're using an artificial intelligence platform and it's a paid service, you can lock things off from the internet. There are ways to protect your data. And in this example, it's showing like how to speed things up. So yes, we've got a horse pulling a massive carriage, but then we've got this steam-powered monstrosity pulling this along. So it's thinking about where can you use AI or different tools to actually speed things up. And I'm a big advocate of removing manual processes. If you're copying and pasting data from one place to another, that kind of stuff can be sped up, and there are ways that you can use these tools now to visualize a lot of the data or to interrogate it for you. So help add some of that, you add some of the context about the data, and it can tell that story as well. And yeah, so it's thinking about the data that you have. It's having the structure in place that's going to help you move forward in a way that's more long term. So you might be, it's hard to do this process and think about all the data we're collecting. We're now going to review it all and see where we can make some efficiencies. It's a big piece of work, but the amount of time that you might save long term is huge, and that's what this is. This first step that you might want to do, and again, we can help you through this if you want, is thinking about creating that kind of structure and processes that are going to help you use the data that you're collecting. And a nice pun there. About building, it's all about building a stable foundation for yourself. So what we do sometimes with organizations is plot out all the systems they're using. So this is one example. This is one organization, and we just sat down and went, right, what is it? Where's the data go? What systems do you use? And we can see here, there's a massive amount of them. So for their website, they were using WordPress, for ticketing, Eventbrite, MailChimp for their email campaigns, and then internally using things like Slack and the Office suite, And then on the website, they had gravity forms collecting data, donor box, and things like website analytics as well. So huge amount of data in all these different systems. And none of these were talking to each other. So it's thinking about plotting these things and going, which ones can. There's so many integrations with a lot of these systems that, and some of it's quite straightforward, is that you can link these data sets together. And by doing that, it can automatically move data from one place to another, or tag certain records that you might have in one system with data from another as well. And it starts to, by doing this, you can automate things, remove those manual processes, and you can save a lot of time and a lot of costs by doing this piece of work. So yes, it's hard and it's a lot of things to think about, but I'd highly recommend doing it. And I'll show you an example of it in a second. We're using that. So yes, if you're plotting all those things out, it's thinking about where are the gaps in your organization. So the way to do this, there's a few different processes, but what you can do is you can do some surveying of your internal organization. So review and survey your own staff members about what they're doing and how they're doing things. And you can do things called user stories. So what, on a day-to-day basis, what systems are they using and where are the bottlenecks? So are they manually copying data from one place to another? Does it sit on someone's desktop that if they're not in, you can't access? Is it someone's got the login and it goes to the phone number goes to their phone for you to get the two-factor authentication, things like that. So there are a lot of bottlenecks if you go through this process to understand what is happening and why things are slowing down. So it's really useful to do the internal user stories research to surface some of those. You can also do what we've just looked at there, is like building an architectural framework about what is happening, what systems are using, how do they currently talk to each other. We're going to put some templates in the resources for this webinar, so you can look at those as well. So it might be a way for you to do that piece of work. But it will start to surface some of those opportunities for efficiencies and ways that data can then move from being static and stuck in different systems to actually coming together a bit more. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples about what I mean by that. So firstly, the Spike Island, a really cool organization down in Bristol. This is what that mapping of the systems was from. So if we look at some of their systems, so yes, they had all those systems, but they thought about where they wanted to get to. So they wanted to really improve their fundraising element in their organization. And the current systems didn't really do all what they wanted to do. So what they went through a procurement process, and they actually got one called Donify. So it's a new CRM system, but they chose it for various reasons. But one of them is that you can integrate with other systems as well. So their existing systems could integrate with this, which meant that then all that existing setup and infrastructure could then feed into a new system, and they could understand their customers from very, very beginning, like walking through the door all the way through to doing the things they want to. And we're not talking a relationship over a couple of weeks or months. We're talking years, so it's someone's artistic career that's going to be going into this system, and be able to plot that. So really tangible, interesting data. So we mentioned earlier on in the chat about understanding audiences and demographic data. If you have a customer relationship management software system, and if you need help looking at those, we've got Adam, our wonderful CRM and ticketing tech champion, so do get in touch with us about that. And also all the other areas of this as well, so things like MailChimp. If you're looking at your email systems, we've got Jacqueline who can look at those systems as well. But yeah, do get in touch with us, it's free. So this example, they pulling that data into one place and then getting it out again. So they're using Power BI, which is a data visualization tool, means that they can share this information across the organization without everybody having to log into all these different systems and try to pick out insight. So going back to what we were saying earlier on about the bog of data, really, really difficult to do that. But if you can start to streamline things and simplify the reporting that you putting you bringing out the other end, it can really help bring everybody else in the organization on board with what you're trying to do, and just show that yes, that at the front desk asking for those donations is hard, or asking them to sign up to a newsletter is hard, but thinking back to Aaron's journey, it's one step in a massive journey that you're taking people on, and it's one piece of data in a multitude of different systems. So another example is the Hepworth Wakefield in Wakefield. So I recommend going there. It's a beautiful building, a lovely gallery and art space. So if anybody went to Hepworth and or they were working with different partners that they might want, or press and things like that, if they wanted to get an image, they would have to go and rifle through this, all these different folders, then cross-reference it against the crediting elements of it and how long a license they have for different images, all that kind of stuff. Really hard. A lot of the information was on like CD-ROMs and USB sticks, or in people's brains. It's not very efficient if you think about that as a data set and the information that you might want to share, and how it connects from a visual image and all the data that sits around it. There's quite a lot. It can't just sit in someone's brain. It has to go into a system. So what Wakefield did is implement resource space. So this is it's an open source digital asset management platform. But what that gave them was a single location for everything. So they've gone through a process over the last 12 months of putting all of their imagery and the crediting and all the licensing into the resource space, so that anybody across the organization and externally can then access this, the assets that they have, and use them. So everything they've got, like imagery of all the Barbara Hepworth work and other stuff that they have in their collection, they've got high quality stuff, easily accessible now. It's saved loads of time for everybody. And they've been able to open up a new revenue stream as well. So they can now do print on demand. So using this new archive of data and imagery. So that wasn't available for them before, but now they can do all this through one open source system. How good's that? What they're doing as well as part of their team is they're using AI within the system. So locked down only, can only view that, can't access the internet. And what that's doing is building relationships between the different objects in the collection. So it's helping the tagging and the descriptions that they have in that within the system as well. So really cool way of using data in that way. So you might have seen this before about data provides loads of answers. It's magical, isn't it? And going back to our bog of data, it's like all the insights that can explode out of it. Really exciting. It's not, in reality, it's not really like that. And if it can provide answers, what is the question? But the thing is, it's not really one question. When it comes to data, it's more of a conversation, because you need as human beings and people that understand what your artistic objectives are and what you're trying to do, you can add an incredible amount of context that a computer can't. It just looks at it as numbers and text, whereas you're adding the context, and that's where a discussion comes through. So yes, data should be a prompt for discussion. It shouldn't just be one bit of information that's going to give you loads of answers. You need to have a good chat and interrogate the data and look at it as a team. And you might be an organization where somebody has the loudest voice and can talk with false authority about certain bits of data and things like that. And we've all been in that situation before. But what data can do is that you can test hypotheses and assumptions. So if someone is saying that, I know our audience only like this certain thing, use data to test it and see what the results are. So we saw earlier on about Google Trends, we know what's happening every year. Whoa, baby reindeer comes along, just ruins it all. So there are things that you can test to see if things will change over time and start to shake things up a bit. So I'd recommend using the data you've got to do that kind of stuff. But it's always, I always love throwing a Lord of the Rings picture in there. So it's always think about your vision statement. So again, if you don't have one, speak to Ollie. He's here for you. He can talk you through that. Really nail down what it is you're here to do. Because all the data that you're collecting, all the actions, all the journeys that you're taking your audiences on should be moving them towards that objective and that vision of like, we want to engage X and Y. We're here to inspire and do this. And if you've got those messages, then what are you doing to feed into that and use data to feed into that vision? So the last part is just about, I just want to show you just an example of some types of things that you might do to bring some of that data together. We were talking to Baker Richards recently, and they showed us their new Advantage dashboard. And just to show you a quick screenshot of that, but I thought this was great because it's just a way to visualize what we talked about at the beginning. So external data. So this is demographic data about local authorities and different wards, about the people that are in them. But it's also pulling in data from ticketing systems. So you can see here on the right hand side. So let's zoom into that bit. So we can see that it's telling us about how much money has been made from different regions, what on average is being spent, how that's in line with different things that they're doing as well. So Baker Richards have created this dashboard, and this is using Power BI as a data visualization tool to be able to feed into that data. So it might be something that you want to explore with them if you're using the systems that can feed into it. But this is just one example. There are so many different data visualization tools that can pull a lot of this data together. So this is using ticketing and demographic data. You could bring in things from like your social media platforms or your email systems and things like that. There are ways to bring this data into something that's much more tangible than a big spreadsheet of numbers or figures and things like that. You can put something that's people across the organization, is easy for them to understand, and then just see that the impact of all the activities that you're doing. Okay, so yeah, I like this picture. It's about harnessing. I don't know what's going on. It's just to wrap things up, just to say that the 3 points talked about today, and as I say, we're going to share the recording of this. You'll have the PDF so you can look at these slides again. But if you think about the ways that you might want to harness data, is firstly, audit your internal data collection. Where is it going and why? It's so important to do that. It's a little bit of work, but just chip away at it and just trying to plot out what's going where. Find useful external data. There's so much out there. There are different support partners for our sector. There are different regional things going on. That there's really good data out there that might feed in and help you inform the actions that you're doing. And then simplify your reporting. And if you need help with any of these steps, we're here to do that. So do get in touch with us. We can help you through this. I know it's quite overwhelming, the amount of data that you might be having, the amount of systems that you have. But you can simplify things and you can focus on the things that are going to tell your story and tell the journey that you're going on. So my little horse is going to pop off. And we're going to go to Q&A now. If you want to stay around for the Q&A, please do. But this is how you can get in touch with us. We are going to send you an email with all those things as well. So yeah, thanks for listening. I'll stop sharing and then chat to Jack.
Well done, James. That was brilliant. So I've prepared some sort of horse-related puns to lead into this section. So first, is your voice a little hoarse after all that talking?
Yeah.
And I'll probably skip through the rest because we need to get some questions in here. So we are in the home stretch. People are champing at the bit for you to tackle some of their questions. So let's put you in the saddle and corral a few of them.
Jack.
First of all, how do you set goals for things like reach and engagement when you're at the mercy of algorithms outside of your control? And I'm guessing that's sort of talking about social media.
Yeah, I mean, it is really difficult. Firstly, it's getting your benchmark about what is on average, what are you seeing? But yeah, it just changes. And um, try I'll try my best to match against the benchmarks I was in the past historically, but because they're all over the place and they're wildly changing, aren't they, with these things? Um, I'd say, what am I going to say? Let me have a think. Um, yeah, I would plot them. My brain's just gone blank. Hang on. Sorry, everybody. Too many horses in my head. Um, yeah, with the algorithms, the way they change, what I would do is be looking at the objectives of what you're trying to put out, and I would put in notifications or have a timeline of when these algorithm changes are happening. So if you follow our social media tech champions on LinkedIn or on, I think that we have stuff in the newsletter all the time, but if you can have a note against different dates about when algorithm changes, at least you can then cross-reference about if you're seeing a massive drop. So have a spreadsheet of changes, and then have your benchmark, have your target, and if you're not reaching it, like, and then just have a look at your list of algorithm changes, see if that's impacting the specific metric that you're trying to track. But with a lot of those awareness things that you might be tracking, so like reach and engagement and those kind of reach and impressions data that you might be having, cross-referencing it against the other stuff that you're seeing. So if you're seeing, like, in social media, your benchmark is going like this, it's quite steady, and your website analytics is spiking upwards, there should be some correlation in that. If there isn't, that might indicate that there is an algorithm change. So it's having a look at that data together, really, and that's why it's looking at it in context instead of just using one data source. It's actually seeing if there's a correlation with any change you see over time. So
And booking in for it's all right. I mean, social media is of course not your specialism, and we do have social media tech champions that you can book in for one-to-one support with, and they can maybe help you go over some of that past data and work those kind of historic things out and help you come to some conclusions about what goals you might have. We had a similar question actually about sort of what should you focus on in Google Analytics, which I know is an area that you cover quite particularly.
Yeah. So with Google Analytics, it's more of a blank canvas. It collects quite a lot of data automatically, but it's really important for you to customize it to track your objectives. So thinking about your website, what do you actually want people to do? Is it fill out a form for like a venue hire inquiry or something like that, or is it like sign up to your newsletter? There are different actions that your website is there to achieve. So firstly, getting those nailed and tracking is a massive first step. You might already have that data that it just collects from page view data, for example, if that's one of your core objectives, actually just people viewing stuff. But usually there's a more nuanced objective that you want to track. And yeah, get in touch. I'll help you set those things up.
So Lisa Wood has given us a couple of questions actually. You mentioned using AI to interpret data. We're thinking of doing that, but what tools are available to do that, and any specific sort of prompts you might use or ways that you might use those AI tools?
Yeah, like they've all got the ability to do it now. The majority of them that I've seen. Um, so it's just picking out what is it you want it to do. Is it what's the questions first that you're coming at it with? So instead of just throwing it in and going, tell me about this data, coming at it with specific questions. It's like, we have a hypothesis. We anticipate that our audience is changing in a certain way. Tell me what you can see from this data as a data analyst. You got to tell these long language models that they have to be an analyst to be able to really dig into the data. But all of them are good. They've all got different extensions and plugins and stuff like that. So instead of just the raw system you might be using, use the deeper level of stuff. There's loads. There's like a massive marketplace for stuff. But we'll put
Yeah,
some links in the resources for those.
And many of them will let you upload files, won't they? So you could upload Excel spreadsheets directly in and things like that. But obviously, you have to be really careful about personal data, making sure there's no identifying information in what you send to it. Or Microsoft Copilot, I think, is you are more able to kind of submit personal data, and it sort of processes it locally without kind of doing anything beyond that.
Yeah.
And I guess also double checking it's working out, because sometimes AI chatbots will just tell you things that aren't true or
Oh
it's
yeah,
just made up.
massively. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
So Lisa's asked another question, which is that they add data collection in their booking process. So people booking tickets, for instance, but see a big drop off when they ask lots of questions during that process. They feel it puts people off. So is that the case? Like it's often better to capture data maybe afterwards.
Sometimes, yeah, it depends on it how much you need that data, isn't it? There are different ways of doing it. Jack, as the survey tech champion, you should be able to answer this one yourself. The journey you're going on, like there are different methods of doing it. You could collect a minimal amount of data first as a first step, and then develop that understanding of your audience over time. So you can get them to fill out more data as that journey goes on with them. So, first, for example, signing up to your newsletter is like name and email address, minimal data. Then we're moving into like purchases, need a bit more. And then it's maybe you're sending out a survey to them to understand more about their demographic data. You can trickle feed that data over time. It's just if you're doing it as part of a whole booking process, it's difficult, isn't it, to ask so many questions that way.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's kind of get people into your system and sort of go from there. So another question was about kind of any top tips on sort of presenting data to stakeholders and colleagues. Like how can you kind of make it exciting and interesting for them?
Yeah, usually, like linking it back is going in with a question. Like, if you are the person that's looking at this data, you want there's a there you might want to prove how much effort you've put into pulling all this data together and how it's taken a lot of time. So you're going to show them everything. So it's overwhelming amount of data in a presentation of going like these numbers here and this there. What a board might want is actually a quick way of making a decision. So what you could do instead is actually have a really simplified version of it of going, we're seeing an increase in X because of X, which is the title of whatever you're presenting. And you can have a nice graph which just goes, and you could say, what we need is this thing, or what we would like to do is test this thing using because the data is telling us. So it allows them to then go yes or no, gives them a real easy answer instead of overwhelming somebody with so much data. Just break it down and put some questions and add some context text into it. You don't have to use a lot of these platforms. You actually be more creative with the way that you present all of these things and really simplify it and add a lot of explanation and context around what you're showing them. But yeah, get in touch because it would be really good to chat to you about that.
Brilliant. And we're just coming up to time. There was another question about automation as well, like automating your data. And I suppose there's many ways that you could do that. That's something you've written an article about recently, isn't it, as well?
Yes, I don't think it's live just yet, but there's one around social media, pulling social media stats. So a lot of organisations I speak to are manually pulling this data out, sticking it in a spreadsheet, and then sharing that as an example. But there are ways that you can A, automate some of that, and B, make it more visually interesting. So that might feed into that previous question, actually.
So that article will be coming soon. And also, of course, we've got that one-to-one free support for anyone in England working in an arts council supported art form. So you can kind of, if you want to automate your data, you can go on that journey with us and get James's support directly. But yeah, I think that wraps it up for us today.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being really engaging. It's really nice to see you all.